Hello, and welcome back to It's a Very Exciting Time, a podcast by a UFO nerd and his tolerant friend. My name is Scott, and I've been fascinated by the phenomenon my whole life.
And I'm Chuck. I'm an aerospace nerd and a tolerant friend.
Started this podcast because since 2017, there have been shocking revelations, from news of secret Pentagon programs to confirmed videos of astonishing craft. In a nutshell, now that we know the government has recovered non-human technology.
Or at least we will, once someone asks Obama even one single follow-up question about the aliens.
That'll make more sense in a minute. It raises the natural question. If UFOs are real, what else? Suddenly, some of these other parts of the phenomenon that seemed unlikely are pulled into the realm of the possible. Boy, there's a lot of P's in that sentence.
There's a lot of P's. And they may still be unlikely, but even if it's new science and not aliens,
it's a very exciting time. Oh, man.
It's been a while.
I feel like we start every episode with, boy, it's been a minute, Chuck. We keep missing episodes.
I mean, it's that
around,
season.
Yeah. Why did we miss our scheduled
Because I was
recording?
Sick.
No, I was traveling. That was our makeup recording. So we were supposed to record 2 weeks ago. Did I skip that? I can't remember. Anyway.
No. We skipped that because I was traveling.
Right. Okay.
And then
so 2 weeks ago, we meant to record this episode.
Yeah.
Chuck flew to Portland, where he hung out with all of his coworkers and apparently a lot of sick children.
Yeah.
And then everyone flew home and predictably got sick.
I mean, every time I travel, I get sick. Even though I mask on the airplane and everything, it doesn't matter. So
yep.
I didn't even hang out with children. It was just work.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
they all have children,
so I finally got around to watching, what was it, like a year ago? We did an episode on Varginha, the Roswell of Brazil. It's actually a really interesting case. The most interesting thing about it is it involves a UFO crash and multiple sightings of potentially alien beings throughout the city of Varginha, Brazil. But the thing that's most interesting about it is it happened in 1996, I think it was. It's a very recent sighting compared to a lot of these other ones that are 1940s, 1950s. Sure. A lot of the witnesses are now dead. The Varginha witnesses are alive and well. And filmmaker James Fox released a documentary. I stumble over this word every time. Documentary. Anyway, he released a film called Moment of Contact that involved him flying down to Brazil, working with a lot of talented local Brazilian ufologists to try to track down witnesses. And he tracked down a number of witnesses. He tracked down a guy who saw the UFO crash in a field and was confronted by the military. He tracked down a bunch of people who reported a unusual, military presence in the city about a week later. He tracked down these, at the time, they were teenage girls who saw an alien in an alley. And he tried to track down people who knew the story of a military policeman who died after getting some unspecified infection after allegedly handling one of the creatures while capturing it. Plus a whole lot of evidence that something happened. These creatures and or bodies went to various hospitals and were then either sent to or taken by the U.S. military. Very unusual case. So yeah, we did an episode about it. I recommend it because we're going to talk about kind of the new stuff now. Because what's happened since then is James Fox continues to go back to Brazil and meet new people. And he finally had enough new footage that he released an updated version of Moment of Contact called New Revelations. Now, if you're like me and you already invested 2 hours in watching Moment of Contact, you may have been hesitant to watch what appears to be not all new stuff, but a
Mm,
slightly extended version. It's only like 10 minutes longer. So I'm like, is it only 10 minutes of new footage? Is it just tacked on
right.
the end?
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you about what happened,
Okay.
what's new and different about it. Um, but before we get to that,
Yeah.
I want to talk about something that happened. It's literally blowing up the UFO community this
Oh,
morning. When I checked all my
okay.
UFO feeds, this is
That's
all
fun.
anyone is talking about.
Yeah.
So it
Okay.
may have blown over by tomorrow, but it's one of those
Yeah.
rare flash in the pan moments that we get
Yeah.
an opportunity to talk about. Uh, so President Barack Obama
Mm-hmm.
gave an interview recently with a guy named Brian Tyler Cohen,
Mm-hmm.
who goes over all the politics of the interview, and then he gets to the end and he says, "Hey, we got a few minutes left. I'm going to do kind of a lightning round of questions." Now, the thing you need to understand about an interview with a politician like Barack Obama is
Yeah.
it doesn't happen lightly.
Yeah.
Questions have 100% been vetted. You're not
Yeah. Right.
really supposed to go off script. Um, so we can assume this question was vetted. But what's frustrating about it is what you want is a lot of follow up, and he doesn't give us any. So
Mm-hmm.
Brian Tyler Cohen asks, as part of this lightning round, are aliens real? And Obama has been asked this question before,
Yeah.
and I always kind of plays it off. Either he jokes, he's like, I can't tell you that, or I'd have to kill you.
Right. Yeah.
Or he's like, yeah, absolutely, but it's kind of wink and a nod. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
never 100% come out. And he just, no bullshit, looks right down the camera. He says, they're real, but I haven't seen them.
Oh.
They're not being kept in Area 51. There's no
Sure.
underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the President of the United States.
I mean, okay. First, dang, that's cool. Like, uh, the thing I don't know is it's Obama. He takes the long view, and so he could just be saying, "Yeah, of course. I believe there's so many galaxies. There has to be aliens."
That's an excellent point. And a lot of people were saying, well, that must be how he meant it. But the thing that's interesting is he says they're not being kept in Area 51. That
Sure.
strongly implies that he understands the question to mean
Yeah.
UFO aliens, aliens that are
Sure.
here visiting us, not like, oh, yeah, probably somewhere in the universe.
Right. And
Also, yeah,
you could analyze it and say there's no underground facility, but what about an above ground facility? Like,
okay.
you know,
I don't think he's
but
playing those games. But what
yeah,
I do love is him cheekily going, unless there's a big conspiracy, they hid it from the President of the United States. Because, hey, guess
which
what? That
of
is
course,
exactly what David Grush, Lou
yeah,
Elizondo, Matthew Brown, like all of these guys have explicitly alleged. Marco Rubio himself said this shit is being hidden from the President of the
mm-hmm,
United States. So,
yeah,
yeah, on the one hand, this is Obama saying they're not at Area 51, but they are real. And there's no facility unless they're hiding it from the president. But you need to understand that last part in context. Like,
yeah,
there's absolutely a widely repeated claim right now that it is a large conspiracy that is being hidden from the president. So I
yeah,
really enjoyed that. But
yeah.
yeah,
No, that's really interesting.
my life for a
Yeah, it'll be
follow-up
fun to see.
question.
Yeah, so many, and he wouldn't have given it. He would have done that Obama grin, like the
Hmm.
"I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you" grin.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been
Still, it's
just
interesting.
as frustrating. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, so that's a brief, like, this is
Fun.
happening right now as we speak
Yeah.
about it. If any UFO reporters in the world right now are not frantically calling Obama's like press
Yeah.
office right now, I'd be shocked.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that was a good appetizer and amuse bouche, if you.
Bruce
If you
Bush, yeah.
yeah.
So back to Moment of Contact. James Fox made this film. He goes back to
Mhm.
Brazil. He releases an updated version of it called Moment of Contact New Revelations. I sat down to watch it. It was very timely because I put off watching it for a little bit. And then
Mhm.
it turned out that one of the things James Fox was doing was trying to get a, all of the Varginha witnesses to fly into the United States to meet with
Oh,
Congress.
oh, that's
Now, this
fascinating.
is a wild decision in the
Yeah,
current political climate. I would not be
yeah, right,
bringing anyone from South America into the US. Um,
right.
he was successfully able to bring 3 witnesses in. All of the rest of the witnesses had their visas denied. The State Department
Funny.
was like, these people are clearly going to overstay their welcome. James Fox
Yeah,
alludes to having to walk on water to get anything done with them here. Um,
yeah.
So he plans a big press conference, which I also watched, where he had these 3 witnesses speak live. And when he found out the rest of them weren't going to be admitted to the country, he flew back to Brazil again and
Hmm.
frantically got all the witnesses whose visas were denied into a room and had them record like
Oh,
witness
cool.
statements that he could
Yeah,
play as video.
yeah.
Um,
Nice.
so it was interesting. If you've already watched Moment of Contact, you do not need to watch the press conference. It
Okay.
has exactly the same information, and it's been like each of the witness statements is so tight that you lose all the details. So I would
Hmm.
recommend Moment of Contact over the press conference. Um, that said, while he had the witnesses here, as I mentioned, he was trying to get them to meet with Congress. And he successfully did that. They met in Tim Burchett's office with members of the UAP caucus. And we got a really good article about this in the debrief by Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal, our
Ooh,
favorite UAP journalists who
love those
broke
names.
famously the 2017 New York Times article about the secret Pentagon UFO program. Um,
Weird that it's 2017.
isn't that
Just
strange? Yeah.
yeah, it feels so recent, but
So, in the article, Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal say, over a large box of untouched donuts. I love they specify untouched. I can only imagine like Ralph sitting there like watching the donuts, but like you don't want to be the first one to go for the donuts.
God, I always I always break the dispute. I always eat the last one. This is like my public service to the world.
Good for you, Chuck.
Yeah, it's the
So,
little things, you know.
over a large box of untouched donuts in Washington's Longworth House office building, congressional representatives sat rapt as a visiting Brazilian neurosurgeon described what it was like to stare back into the large lilac colored eyes of a highly intelligent non human being. So, not your usual Capitol Hill meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I want to make a joke about the most unusual thing being the intelligence, but I actually kind of wonder if legislators are smarter than they sometimes put on. So I don't feel
Although
like I should make that.
Burchett definitely plays up the part of being
Yeah,
a country bumpkin. Dad gummit!
yeah,
Tell me about
exactly.
the
Yeah.
aliens, Dad gummit! The closed door session on January 15th brought together 3 members of Congress seeking greater government transparency on unidentified anomalous phenomena, long called UFOs, and a group of Brazilians who say they witnessed the crash of an otherworldly spacecraft and later encountered its non human occupants.
United anomalous phamina is a very
Sorry,
different thing.
it is. Yeah, united anomalous phenomena. They're
Yeah.
working together.
Exactly. Should I assume that this is the UAP caucus, or
Yeah.
do we know?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Burchett, Luna, and I forget who else. They couldn't all make it, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Makes sense.
so if you haven't watched our earlier Virginia episode, the debrief helpfully provided a very brief recap. We're also going to go over some of the witness statements. They said the story is this: on January 13th, 1996, in the countryside outside the municipality of Varginha, Brazil, the geography teacher, also an ultralight pilot, reported seeing a cylindrical craft trailing smoke and crashing to Earth. A week later, 3 girls walking home through a vacant lot reported encountering a cowering creature with reddish eyes and brown, oily skin that reportedly communicated its suffering through its eyes. Before long, the streets of Varginha were filled with military trucks and emergency personnel and emergency vehicles amid rumors of the capture of two non-human beings, one later hospitalized, and a clandestine American operation that spirited them out of Brazil.
Wait, one later hospitalized. Was that one of the two non-human beings? Or
Yes.
okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
In the original Moment of Contact, one of my frustrations is James Fox is doing the right thing. He is
Mm-hmm.
not pushing a narrative onto it. He is presenting witness statements and leaving
Mm-hmm.
it up to you to connect A to B. But it's the timelines are sometimes frustratingly vague, and it's a
Yeah.
little hard to tell, like, are they talking about the same creature? Like, depending on how you
Yeah.
read the witness statements, there was anywhere from 1 to like 3 or 4 creatures, and maybe 2 of them were alive, maybe one of them was dead, maybe there were 2 bodies and 1 living. Like, it's
Yeah.
still a little unclear.
Yeah. My question was purely about the grammar of the sentence. The
Yeah,
subject of that sentence was both military trucks, emergency vehicles, and non-human beings.
I can
And
confidently state they did not hospitalize any military trucks.
they did hospitalize military personnel, though.
Yes,
But it
but that
would be
was
very
much later.
funny.
Yeah,
To little truck on a stretcher.
yeah.
Okay,
Now
carry
the
on.
debrief comes right out and says the thing that most skeptics say about this. Um, there is no question the Varginha case lacks hard data. No one has yet been able to come up with photographs or videos, physical evidence, official documentation, or military or medical records that could help verify the episode. Yet, over 24 witnesses to many aspects of the case have come forward independently, providing pieces of a puzzle that seem to fit together to tell a compelling story.
Yeah, I mean, it it's 96.
Mm-hmm.
We had cameras, but we didn't have digital.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have all the surveillance that we do now. So it's not surprising.
Also worth remembering that Virginia isn't a small town, but it's not a major town. And 96 is still kind of like the early days of
Mm.
like digital cameras. Like
Oh,
people
yeah.
had cameras, but it was still mostly film cameras at that time.
Right.
Anyway,
Yeah, the like point and click phone cameras I don't think they
not,
existed at that
not
point,
really a thing
really.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if they were very low res. Yeah.
Because this was uh like 3 or 6 months after the iPhone 3. No, the iPhone 1.
No, it's before the iPhone 1, right? Wasn't that
I thought that
2000?
was Oh, yeah, you're right. That was 2008.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. All right, sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. I mean, it's worth
Yeah.
recapping, right? Especially
Yeah.
for our younger viewers who don't remember a time before
Right.
smartphones.
Yeah.
1996, we were all carrying around dumb candy bar phones or flip phones,
Yeah.
very limited recording capabilities. So
Yeah.
it is not outrageous that there's not a lot of civilian footage.
Right.
Even when witnesses talk about, like, oh yeah, there was a guy there with a video camera, he's talking about one of those big over the shoulder like
Mm-hmm.
VHS cameras, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not talking like a little handy cam. I'm going to start with the witness who had the least new to say. I'm sorry about that.
Mm.
Carlos
That's
de
right. I don't
Souza
remember it.
was a witness to the crash, and he's one of the 3 people who was able to get into the U.S.
Mm.
So a week before all the hubbub in the city of Virginia proper, a craft crashed outside of Virginia, and Carlos de Souza was a witness to that. The debrief said Carlos de Souza, a geography teacher and ultralight pilot, told the representatives that he saw a cigar-shaped craft that he first thought was a blimp with a lateral tear, trailing white smoke and struggling to stay aloft before crashing near a highway. In the original Moment of Contact, well, also in the remade Moment of Contact, de Souza is a really interesting witness because he gave a single statement to the news in 96, like the day of, and then didn't speak to the public again.
Yeah.
Like, he has not been on UFO tour circuits. He has not been
Mm.
like writing books. They had to track him down.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they did was go back out on the road that he said he was on and made him find the spot where it happened. Now, they weren't
Oh,
expecting to find wreckage or anything, but
right. Yeah.
they wanted to get there.
Yeah.
And the poor guy is like looking out the window at farmland that
Yeah.
he hasn't seen in 30 years and that has changed at multiple
Yeah, of
points. He's
course.
like, those trees didn't used to be there. Like this was
Yeah.
not a back road, but it wasn't the main road. It was a
Yeah.
road connecting two towns that he would take to get to the airfield. So he
Oh,
was
yeah.
familiar with the road, but it's not like, like, oh yeah, I drive up and down I-5 all day, every day, and I know
Hmm.
all the landmarks. Like, he hasn't been here in a while. And he's like, you can
Yeah.
see him sweating as he's struggling to find the spot.
Yeah.
And then when they actually find the spot, it's this incredibly emotional scene where he comes out and he like drops to his knees and he's like
Mm.
touching the ground. He's like, it was here, it came in over there. He's like, he's pointing, he's
Mm.
describing
Interesting.
where all the wreckage was, where he was,
Yeah.
where the police officers were. I found it very compelling. I've
Yeah.
also read other people who watched the movies who thought it was corny and overacted. So
Hmm.
it kind of depends on what you're bringing to the
Yeah.
expectation, I
Everyone's
think.
got their lens. Yeah.
But yeah, so DeSouza saw it.
Yeah.
So here's his new witness statement. DeSouza says, I witnessed the crash of a non-terrestrial craft on January 13th, 1996. I was en route to an ultralight pilots gathering. When I made a brief stop near Varginha, I looked skyward and spotted a cigar-shaped object which seemed distressed. Initially, I assumed it was a blimp, which was common at the time over soccer fields for broadcasts.
Oh, yeah. I could see that. Uh, I one thing I don't know about blimps is like what happens when they tear. I assume they don't just
Yep.
make a funny noise and fly around the sky, but
Correct.
but yeah, I don't know what happens.
Yeah, most blimps have an internal structure. So what happens is they gradually lose the material that holds them aloft, and they
Right.
may spiral down to the ground, or they may
Okay.
just slowly descend. But I mean, Hindenburg famously, was on fire and still
Right.
descending to the ground slowly.
Yeah. Okay.
But the
Interesting
point is, he did not see this and think, hey, that's a UFO.
Right,
He's
yeah.
a pilot. He's concerned
Yeah.
that a human powered
Yeah.
object is crashing. He wants to go
Right.
to the aid of the pilots.
Right. Yeah.
He says it released white smoke while losing altitude. The white smoke was interesting. He was very clear. It wasn't black smoke like you would expect from an engine fire.
Right. Yeah. From oil burning.
Yeah, exactly. It made a slight turn that revealed a lateral tear from the middle to the back. It was clearly having problems. I realized that the occupants could be in deep trouble. I got in my car and followed its trajectory toward the crash site, hoping to be able to help. When I got there, I smelled a foul odor, like ammonia with rotten eggs, burning my eyes. Half the craft remained intact by a tree, and the debris of the back part was scattered everywhere.
Oh, and so I didn't realize that he was like there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
minutes after the crash, he arrives on
Yeah.
site. The smell is interesting because we hear multiple other witnesses describe that. So if we're dealing with ammonia breathers, or as the EBO biologist said, beings that sweat ammonia as a waste product, it might make sense you smell that. But they all talked about being this incredibly pungent, overpowering smell that would cling to your nose. Like multiple of the witnesses described the smells lingering for days. DeSouza describes like pulling his shirt up over his mouth and like trying to like cover his mouth.
I think that's very common of like sulfur, at least sulfur chemists talk about that all the time. That problem.
Yeah. So yeah, he shows up. What he thought was a blimp is now crashed. There's some weird stuff going on. He described in the movie, not in his witness statement here, but in the original movie, there was this huge area of burned grass, but it wasn't burned by a fire. It was like a chemical burn, which is another interesting thing.
Yeah. Right.
DeSouza says he kind of walks out into the wreckage. Um, Multiple army vehicles arrived promptly. Oddly promptly, right? Again, this is minutes after the crash. At that point, I was in the middle of the wreckage and picked up a lightweight fragment resembling aluminum foil. I crumpled it in my hand, but when I let it go, it instantly resumed its original shape. A soldier approached fast and hit me in the chest with his rifle, so I was forced to drop the metal. He shouted, "Leave now!" And I said, "No, people in there need help." He aimed his gun at my head and said, "I'm not requesting, it's an order. Leave now or I'll split your skull." I turned and departed immediately. I was very scared and confused.
Yeah, seems legit. That's exactly what I would do too.
Yeah.
Like,
Now, here's the thing. There's multiple weird things about this,
right.
but DeSouza's reactions to everything feel genuine and realistic to me.
Yeah.
He runs towards the crash, which I don't think a lot of people would do because he's a pilot. His instinct is to go to the aid of other aviators. Once he arrives at the crash, he's starting to realize there's something odd about it, but he's barely had time to figure it out when the military turns up, which means the military was already tracking this craft.
Mm-hmm.
They force him to leave. Okay, so far so weird. Now comes the next odd part of his story, and this is one of my frustrations in the original cut of the movie, is he describes effectively a Men in Black encounter where he's at a diner and these men in dark suits show up and intimidate him into not talking. But it was unclear in the movie when that happened.
Sure.
We now know it was literally the next thing that happened, which makes the encounter even stranger. Sousa says, "I left the area and stopped at the first gas station to compose myself. A few minutes later, a very dark blue or near black vehicle pulled up. Two suited men got out and approached me. One called me by my name, stating my address and naming my wife and business. I asked, 'Who are you?' He threatened, 'You saw nothing, you know nothing, or you'll have problems for the rest of your life. Understood?' They departed swiftly. I grabbed a napkin to write down their license plate, but there wasn't one."
Of course there wasn't. That's how would they identify him so quickly is the big question. Like,
the most I could figure out is one of the soldiers wrote down his license plate number as he drove away.
Okay.
And then they, looked him up in a database. Is there such a database in Brazil? Is this an intelligence? All of these things are explainable if you start bringing up to the level of conspiracy and military intelligence stuff. But if it's just like local police or something, is it realistic that they... Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was already a weird encounter, but having it be, minutes later is very odd. So anyway, not a whole lot of new details in the DeSouza account, but a couple of things that helped clarify it. I really liked getting the clarification that he was a pilot and he was going there because he thought he was helping people. I liked the clarification on the timeline. All of that was great.
Yeah, seems good.
The other big witnesses in the film are the three teenage girls who saw the alien crouching in the alley. I'm not going to cover that here because there was no new information about it.
Okay.
Go watch our original podcast or go watch either version of Moments of Contact to get their information. But the short version of it is it's a week later.
Okay.
That's another odd thing about this story, by the way, is all of these accounts about aliens and military and everything are from a week later. There's nothing between the craft crashing and aliens loose on the street of Varginha.
Yeah, right.
Who knows what happened between then and now? Were these critters just making their way into the city slowly,
or
living
did they
in the woods?
Escape?
Did they escape? I have a lot of questions about it. But a week later, these three teenage girls they're walking, taking a shortcut through an alley, and they see this alien crouching against a wall. It is it is roughly the size and proportions of a gray. When we talk about a gray, it's a little bit shorter, big bulbous head, big eyes, but unusually, um, it has either horns or
Yeah.
ridges along the top
Right.
of its head. Its eyes are big and red, and its skin is brown and oily, and it smells strongly and upsettingly of sulfur and ammonia.
Hmm.
Um, the girls
Interesting that
describe, yeah,
didn't they say lilac in the Capitol Hill
we'll
comment?
get to that. Yeah,
Okay. All
that's
right.
a really interesting detail. But the girls described red eyes, brown skin, oily.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
they didn't touch it, but they were maybe 10 feet away, maybe even
Yeah.
closer. And they never quite use the word telepathy, but they
Mm-hmm.
describe making eye contact and knowing how the being was feeling. And it wasn't
Hmm.
just empathy. It's like I knew this being was hot, miserable, uncomfortable, terrified. All of this kind of makes sense if you are on the run in a climate that doesn't suit you.
Yeah. Right.
Brazil is pretty hot. This is June, you know.
Yeah.
But who knows? So yeah, there were no new details about their claims. They were not some of the witnesses that
Okay.
came, but it's one of the big central pillars of the story. They run
Yeah.
away. When they come back, the creature is gone.
Sure.
Around the same time, and again, it's frustrating. The movie is a little unclear on the timeline.
Mm.
There are multiple other witness encounters happening. There are some guys who were leaving a gym and run into military blockades on the
Mm.
street of Virginia, something that had never happened before and
Yeah.
hasn't
Right.
happened since. Imagine walking through downtown Portland and military trucks have blocked off the blocks surrounding the South Park blocks. You'd be like, what
Yeah.
is
Right.
going on? It would
What
stick
has
out in your
happened?
head, even if
Yeah. It would.
you
Yeah.
didn't have anything to do with aliens.
Yeah.
Um,
And just for folks that watch the news, that doesn't actually happen in Portland very
it's
often,
true.
despite what the
Yeah.
news would have you believe.
Yeah. Um, there's reports of firefighters being called to some sort of creature in the woods
Mm.
that kids are throwing rocks at. They show up and are
Children.
alleged to have captured an alien in a net.
Mhm.
There's the story of Margot Charisse, which we'll get to, who is a military police officer who is out with his partner looking for loose aliens, and one runs across the road and he runs out and bodily handles it and brings it back, and they take it to the hospital. So there's an unusual timeline. Eventually, these at least one or two, maybe three or four living and or dead creatures are brought to the local hospital. They are then transferred to another hospital, and then all this other stuff happens. So again, go watch the original episode. But coming back to our witnesses here, so we now have some new witnesses. Um, the debrief introduces this first one. They say Dr. Armando Fortunato, who has been a forensic pathologist and criminal medical examiner for the civil police for over 3 decades, told the representatives that he performed an autopsy on a young military police officer, Marco Charisse, who had grabbed one of the beings during its capture and then died a few weeks later from a severe infection after it inadvertently scratched him.
Sorry. Wait, after it scratched him.
Yeah.
That interesting. So I was just doing some quick looking to see like how bad would it be if you grabbed a creature that was sweating ammonia. And I was like, that it looks real bad. Like just
Not great.
touching
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
may have been enough.
Yeah, and it again, the story of Marcus Charisse is told in
Yeah.
the documentary. They talk to his sister. So it is a known fact that he was working that night when all the
Hmm.
military stuff was happening. It is a known fact that he got sick like
Hmm.
very soon afterwards. I want to say 2 weeks later, and then died.
Hmm.
Um, it is a fact that there were some irregularities in how that was happening.
Mm.
The military wouldn't release his body. They buried him in a metal casket. Um, it
Wow.
took a long time for the family to get any sort of statement
Hmm.
from the military. There's the sister claims that her mom was told by the military, it's true what you heard, he died because he handled, but we can't say that publicly. She was eventually able to get his like autopsy statement. I think that's how James Fox tracked Dr.
Mm.
Fortunato down. Um,
Okay.
so Fortunato, who's one of the three witnesses who came to the U.S. and one of the new
Okay.
witnesses in the movie, in the updated movie, says, I was assigned to perform the autopsy on the body of the 23-year-old soldier Marco Cheriz, whose unexpected death led the commander of the military police of the state of Minas Gerais to request an investigation on suspicion of professional error. So again, nobody's talking about aliens.
Yeah. Right.
This is just somebody in the dude's chain of command is like, this 23-year-old kid died of an infection. Like, I think one of the doctors fucked up. He's starting an
Yeah. Right.
internal investigation to make
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
that there's not like a bad doctor treating his troops.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
it was considered unusual that a young, healthy soldier would die as a result of what appeared to be a simple abscess in the underarm area. A recent scar was observed in the left underarm region as a result from the surgical drainage of an infectious lesion.
I mean, yeah, it would be weird for someone that young and healthy to
Mhm.
die from something like that, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
Fortunato continues. He said the patient died a few days later, despite having been evaluated and treated by other physicians with high doses of anti inflammatory medications and antibiotics. As the infection was caused by a highly virulent and multi drug resistant bacterium, it progressed rapidly, spreading throughout the body and resulting in septic shock, eventually leading to the death of the young soldier. I sent organ fragments and blood samples to my colleague, the renowned pathologist Dr. João Batista Janini, for laboratory assessments and further clarification.
Okay, so that's it is interesting that it's a drug resistant bacterium. Like, um, yeah, how did they control that after the fact? I see why it
And it's
was.
worth noting, he didn't just like get sick and
Yeah,
die. Like he was at the hospital repeatedly. He was
yeah,
hospitalized. They were actively treating him.
right, yeah,
It's 1996. This isn't like the dark ages of medicine. They
right,
had
yeah,
broad spectrum antibiotics. He
yeah,
was not responding to it.
yeah. But that isn't a ammonia poisoning,
Right.
because that would have been
Yeah.
much faster.
Yeah.
Oh,
The debrief introduces this next section. Next section, they say Dr. Armando handed the representatives a signed statement from Dr. João Janini, 89, a specialist in pathological anatomy, whose biography states he has performed over 50,000 autopsies.
wow.
Janini attested that he had found a rare form of bacterium, quote, of extremely high aggressiveness and lethality in the tissue samples from Cheriz.
Wow. I don't know. 50,000 is kind of a shocking number to begin with, but um what do you want to bet that bacterium is still like somewhere in a lab, some BSL 4 or 5 lab that
Maybe.
nobody
Yeah.
touches, and that's
Yeah,
interesting.
you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. So, Dr. Giannini was not in the movie. He did not travel to the US. He's
Hmm,
89. He's long since
sure.
retired, but he did provide a statement. My name is Dr. João Janini. I am a professor and doctor with specialization in pathological anatomy. I worked professionally for 60 years, during which I performed more than 50,000 autopsies, conducted over 1 million microscopic analyses, and served as a preceptor to more than 200 postgrad students. Now,
How,
I
how do
forget,
you
I
count
think I
that?
did the math at one point. 60 years, 50,000 autopsies. It comes to something like three a day. Dude worked his ass off.
Yeah. Does that include weekends?
No, I can't remember the math. Anyway,
Yeah.
it
Still,
may be
it's a
less than
lot.
that, but this dude has done a lot of pathology. This is a guy
Yeah.
who knows what he's doing. Um,
Yeah, right.
and he clarifies the access granted to me was limited exclusively to tissue fragments collected during the autopsy of the body of soldier Marco Cheriz. Subsequently, I received circumstantial reports presented by gentlemen ufologists. I assume that's a quirk of translation, but I love the phrase so much. Gentlemen ufologists. These weren't just like your regular
No.
run-of-the-mill ufologists.
Yeah, these were gentlemen
Yeah.
ufologists. Okay.
I received circumstantial reports from ufologists who requested a review of the previously mentioned material. Based on these reports, I prepared my conclusions focusing exclusively on the identification and analysis of the bacterium responsible for the infection that afflicted the soldier. So he initially just reviews the tissue fragments from the perspective of, okay, this kid died of a bacterial infection. He then hears possibly of alien nature and
Right.
spends a little more time focusing on the bacteria.
Right. Yeah, that's really interesting. So, incidentally, this is what my wife is doing right now. They're not alien bacteria, but she is culturing bacteria, and it's fascinating. So, I'd love to
What
see
kind
that
of bacteria?
bacterium.
Like coral? Octopus?
Yeah, coral microbiome, like gut bacteria from a
That's
coral.
cool.
Although it seems
Do
like,
coral have guts?
yeah, they're mostly gut, actually.
All
Um,
right.
yeah,
I don't know
it's
shit
weird.
about coral. Probably
We
stop
can.
talking.
I'll tell you all about
I'll
the wet
speculate
sciences
all day
later.
about aliens, but I better stop talking about the wet sciences. Uh, Janini continues. He says, this bacterium proved to be a microbial agent of extremely high aggressiveness and lethality. Given its characteristics, I understand that it goes beyond the limits of a conventional infection, possibly presenting itself as a highly specialized mechanism of aggression and defense, which raises the hypothesis of its alien origin.
No, interesting. So, do you read that as like a defense mechanism? Like, uh, okay.
Yeah. Um, During the Q&A part, someone asked Dr. Fortunato whether like th- the bacterium was known, and
Hmm.
he said it was one that they knew of but was rare. Um,
Hmm. Interesting.
and I'm not a microbiologist. I would assume if it's truly extraterrestrial, you would expect it to be completely novel. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, if they've been visiting us for centuries throughout human
Right.
history, as many people
Yeah.
allege, maybe they've interfered with our biome before. Who knows? You know,
Who
not to
knows?
mention the whole philosophy that they're time travelers. But yeah,
Right. Right. Yeah.
Janini's statement uh, concluded with, we are currently awaiting the necessary legal procedures for the exhumation of the body, with the expectation that advanced studies in molecular biology may provide new evidence regarding its mechanisms of aggressiveness, corroborating the hypothesis that if it is an organism of extraterrestrial origin. If confirmed, such a finding would represent unequivocal proof of the existence of extraterrestrial life, implying a profound global reformulation of our philosophical understanding of existence.
Yeah. They're never
Just
getting that body
casually
out.
putting it out there, we're going to dig this guy up, and he might have alien bacteria in him, and that
Yeah.
would be kind of a big deal.
Would be. I mean, it would be interesting, but man, they're
he
never getting that
he
body out.
stated that so academically, but it
Yeah.
boils down to, yeah, anyway.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
yeah, combined with the fact that we know that the military buried him in a sealed metal casket, which is unusual,
Right.
and how much they had to fight to even get access to the autopsy, I can
Yeah.
only assume that there is quite a legal hurdle to go through to get access to this soldier who was buried after maybe being biologically contaminated by extraterrestrials.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think it's coming out, but it'd be fascinating if it does.
it sure would be. So our last witness, is the one that made me think that this was actually worth talking about. Because so far, what we've got is very incremental additions to the story we already had.
Okay.
Right? Like, Carlos de Souza gave us a little bit more info on the timeline. The autopsy doc gave us a teeny bit more information about the investigation that occurred into the death of Marco Cheriz. But there's no smoking gun here. There's no silver bullets.
Yeah.
One of the things that James Fox was trying to do was he had heard that the alien was brought to regional hospital in Varginha, where it was seen and treated by doctors there. And he's been trying for years to get a hold of someone because the rumor was there was video taken of it. So he's trying to track down video because what he wants is like proof.
Yeah.
So the third witness who came back to the U.S. is Dr. Italo Venturelli. The debrief says Dr. Italo Venturelli, who was on duty that day in regional hospital in Varginha, said the captured being was initially treated by his colleague, Dr. Neves, who sutured a wound on its cranium. Neves died in 2018, and no medical records were kept of this procedure, according to Dr. Italo. Now, James Fox has been in contact with Dr. Venturelli. He's been trying to get him to talk because Dr. Venturelli is saying, I saw a videotape. So he's like, great, I want to talk to you. I want to hear what you saw on it. And the guy's being real cagey about it.
Interesting.
Now, I'm going to detour for a moment because his witness statement approaches this in a much more clinical way. In the movie, of course, they get a little bit more dramatic. They're like, he finally agrees to meet with us. And he tells us to meet him at regional hospital. But weirdly, he wants us to come in the back door. Like, he doesn't want us to come in the front. He meets us at the back door, and he leads us into an exam room where he casually discloses that he saw the alien in the bed in this exam room. Like, he is a first-hand witness. He's not, hey, I saw a videotape 30 years ago. He's like, I saw the alien. But James Fox in the film is freaking out. I want you to imagine you don't speak the language. You go to another country. You're trying to film a documentary, and it's all in a language you don't speak. You're the guy who's making it happen, but you're entirely reliant on translators. The whole time, the translators and the local investigators are like chatting away at each other. He's like, what's happening? What's happening? The poor guy. I felt more for him in this scene than I did in any other movie. So his witness statement will explain it better than the movie did, because in the movie, it's kind of chaotic. He is abruptly dropping this knowledge bomb on them. Nobody was prepared for this. At some point, a nurse comes by and mentions that they're going to get in trouble for being in this room. So he like hustles them back out the door, and they go to like a cafe nearby to chat.
Oh my gosh.
So after it calms down, he gives them a witness statement. He records an interview. He now comes to the States. So it's just funny because all of the other witnesses in the movie, we didn't see the initial moment where they're in contact and how excited they are to have a new witness. It's always like, okay, we finally convinced this guy to get on camera. You know, and this time they're like, wait, what? So Dr. Italo, as he likes to be known, says, I held on to a very big secret for 29 years, sharing it only with a few medical colleagues, even though many others knew what I knew. This is important. Many people at the hospital know about this and are unwilling to speak about it. In 2023, so 2 years ago, 2 years before the movie came out, I revealed to James Fox and his team that I had seen a video of a non-human creature in the hospital on January 20th, 1996. After suffering a near-fatal heart attack in 2024, I felt compelled to share more details of my experience, despite previous concerns about the consequences for my career. So he doesn't say it explicitly, but many of the other witnesses made it clear. Everyone who wasn't in the military, and a lot of the people who were in the military, some of the drivers and stuff, had visits from people in authority who made it very clear there would be bad consequences if you
Right. Yeah.
spoke publicly about it. So
Yeah.
lots of people in the hospital know about this. Nobody's talking about it. He has a heart attack, and all he's been telling James Fox is, I saw a videotape, and now he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what? Actually,
No,
come on in. I'm going to tell you
let's do this.
everything.
Yeah. Makes sense. What are they going to do? Fire him more?
Right?
Yeah. I think that's great.
Dr. Italo says, that afternoon in 1996, I was working at Varginha Regional Hospital when my colleague and fellow neurosurgeon, Marcos Vincenzo Neves, urgently called me into an improvised intensive care room. He was carrying a large video camera. Upon entering, he showed me a black and white video on the camera screen. So again, this is not like an on the record, like professional, hey doc, I want you to come, like, come into this room, holds up a camcorder and turns the camera view screen around to show him. He showed me a black and white video on the camera screen that appeared to be a child lying in bed with an extreme case of hydrocephalus. That just means enlarged head.
Okay.
I asked, what is this? He pointed past the makeshift partition where a being was lying. I got closer. The moment I looked at the being, I immediately knew it was not human.
Yeah.
I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Dr. Neves. You've just operated on an alien being. You want to call your colleague in to get a second opinion to make sure that things are going well.
Did I do this okay?
But you don't want to just bring him in like, hey, meet Bob.
Yeah,
like,
right.
So he shows him the video first.
Yeah.
And Dr. Italo is like, what am I looking at? He's like, look over there.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Like, it's so funny to make him look at the video first, but it's very clearly
in the room.
Like, okay, is he going to freak out just for the video? Right. Okay, he didn't freak out. Okay.
He didn't freak out? Here. Okay. This is just, like, what was it? Hydrocephalus? Okay, that's fine. This is a big head.
Dr. Italo is very funny in the interviews because he keeps trying to break it down. He's like, look, as a medical professional, as a surgeon, you are trained to evaluate from a medical perspective first. Like, it's just instinctive. You look at a person and you're immediately kind of like gauging their vitals. Yeah. He says, I first examined it from a medical perspective. Breathing well. No apparent pain. Conscious. No bleeding. It seemed fine, with a calm and serene expression. It looked like a 7-year-old child with a sheet covering up to its waist. Its eyes were lilac and teardrop shaped. The cranium was also teardrop shaped. The skin was white, the arms very thin, and the hand had 3 fingers and an opposing thumb. It had no nipples and a tiny mouth. I love this description.
Yeah.
He's like, get you a trained observer, right? Like, I love the Navy pilots describing the way that the UFOs fly. I love the doctor calmly describing the visual status of the patient.
Yeah.
But I want to hammer on the thing you already pointed out earlier. White skin, lilac eyes.
Yeah. That's different.
Is this even the same alien?
Right. Also,
or, you know, the EBO scientists said they sweat ammonia. Was the like oily appearance of them because they'd been living rough in the woods and were terrified and grimy? And this is just what they look like when they're calm and clean? Like,
maybe.
I have so many questions. And I just want to be clear to anybody who's like getting frustrated right now. There's no answer. Like, nobody addresses the fact that Dr. Italo has a completely different description of the creatures than everyone else who reported seeing them in Varginha. And there are multiple other people who reported seeing them. There are people who saw bodies. There are people who, claim to have seen them in the streets. There are the girls. Like, everyone else universally describes dark brown, oily skin, red eyes. Right. Dr. Italo's like, calm, serene, lilac eyes, white skin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Or, is white the unusual color? But also...
Yeah, maybe it's dying.
I think it's fascinating what you notice in those moments. And like this guy did his medical examination like he usually would. And at the end, he noticed one other interesting detail: no nipples. Like,
Yeah.
why do you, like, I really want to dig into this one with you, my man. Like,
Yeah.
how did that happen?
Now, Dr.
Um,
Italo continues, and this is interesting too. He says, "It looked at me, then it looked at the blue sky through the window as if longing to be there." First of all, quick pause. Open window.
so,
Can
hospitals are
you
different.
imagine you've got an alien in your house? I can only assume he's not on the first floor, but like nobody closed the curtains.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
it looked at the blue sky through the window as if longing to be there. It then looked back at me. After that, I sensed it was fully aware of what was happening around it and our intention to help. I felt it was grateful for the care and wanted to leave. Its serenity and powerful presence led me to believe it had a very high level of intelligence and perception, higher than human beings. It seemed like an angel, with understanding and compassion in its gaze, aware that, despite our limitations, we were doing the best we could for it.
It was very sweet. Total anthropomorphizing, but maybe that's
Here's what I'm fascinated
true.
by. Dr. Italo carefully avoids telepathy.
Mm,
He
yeah.
does not say, "I heard it, it
Right.
spoke to me." He infers meaning. And at the
Right.
press conference, there were a lot of follow up questions for him, as you can
I
imagine,
bet.
and a lot of people trying to press him. Was it communicating telepathically with you? And he pretty much comes down on no.
Hmm.
This is all nonverbal communication like you might have with a normal human who is sitting there. He looks calm, he looks peaceful, he doesn't seem to be distressed or trapped. He's
Yeah.
reading into it. And you're absolutely right, he's anthropomorphizing. But I find it really interesting. The girls also never explicitly say telepathy. They
Sure.
never received messages from the creature. They received impressions,
Hmm.
emotional state. They felt they were communing with it. Um, is this just a medical professional describing the same thing, like avoiding
Right.
saying I received a message that it was calm, and just,
Right.
is this 30 years he's kind of talked to? I must not have heard it, who knows, but
Yeah.
it's really interesting that he very explicitly avoided giving the message. It telepathically communicated with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, that is the extent of his story. Like,
Okay.
basically, his colleague called him in to look at the suture he did on this
Yeah.
guy's head, and it's like, "Is it good?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's good." It was
Seems good.
like a few minutes. He said he was in the presence of the alien for like 3 to 4 minutes,
Yeah.
and then he left. And he never talks about being sworn to secrecy, but based on how long he held off on talking about it, based on what we've heard from others, we can presume that he and the rest of the hospital staff who came in contact with it were told not to talk about it. Um,
Maybe.
so yeah, it's a fascinating and confusing addition to the story. Um, for anybody who hasn't watched the original movie or listened to our episode about it, the kind of conclusion to all of this is the aliens and or bodies are at one of the hospitals. Then they move to a different hospital in the area. Then there's this military, all I can think of is the word crusade. What's it called? A convoy.
Oh, sure.
Where they take
Very different.
crates that maybe have aliens in them from the hospital to another military base in the area, where the US military shows up unannounced and takes all of the stuff and leaves.
Yeah.
Um, The debrief kind of wraps it up. They said, during the private discussion in Burchett's office, Dr. Italo said that he had learned that the being he saw was taken to ESA military base, then to Campinas, then to the United States. All the people we talked to said the exact same thing, Fox told the representatives. So,
Yeah.
like I said, if you already watched the original documentary, Moment of Contact, I don't know that you need to watch the update. I just gave you all of the new information. I don't think you need to watch the press conference. But yeah, it's interesting that James Fox is continuing to dig into this, finding more corroborating witnesses. But yeah, you can tell he's chasing so hard any evidence, because right now it's
Yeah.
all witnesses. And it's compelling that there are a lot of witnesses giving largely aligned statements, other than Dr. Italo, I saw a white angel with purple eyes. Um,
Yeah.
Everybody kind of says the same thing. The accounts all fit. There's nobody who's like given a witness statement that completely invalidates someone else. Either they don't overlap at all, or where
Yeah.
they overlap, they align. So I'm kind of in the same spot with it. I find this to be a very compelling, very
Compelling.
interesting case,
Yeah.
but that's all it is. Until we get
Mm.
some evidence, it's compelling. And I want it to be more.
Yeah.
I
And
want
we
him to
never
find
will.
that video so bad. Or
It wouldn't help.
maybe
Like,
he's
we've
also
got great
trying to come at
videos.
it from a different angle. He had an Air Force person talking to him saying, look, I know that the Brazilian air traffic controller guy said that the Navy plane showed up without a flight plan, but that's not how shit works. Like, maybe Brazil didn't see the flight plan, but like, if a military plane left a military base, there's records of it somewhere. There's radar tracks of it somewhere. Like, this shit is recorded within an inch of its life. And he's telling him, like, here are the people to talk to. Here's the things to ask for. So
Yeah.
there are, that would still just be corroborating evidence. But if we were able to show, like, hey, randomly, a Navy C-13 flew into
Yeah.
ESA Air Base in Brazil on the date that all these witnesses said, and some stuff was
Yeah.
loaded onto it, that's another trail to follow. Who was flying the plane? What base did it go back to? Who's in charge of that base? So James Fox is not giving up, and I have a lot of
Yeah.
respect for him on that. But I also don't fault anyone who's like, it's an interesting story, Scott, but I don't believe it.
Yeah. Do you, do you follow there's like a Twitter account for a group that tracks black helicopters in DC?
No,
Um,
that's interesting. Like the
so
unmarked black helicopters.
unmarked black helicopters, no flight plan, no uh automated
Yep.
signal on it.
Right.
And they'll like, if they get a rumor about it, they'll try and get a photo of it, figure out what kind it is,
Mm-hmm.
see if they can infer where it's going. But military planes absolutely fly without um like flight plans. You may be right that they're recorded internally, but
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think anybody's disputing that there was no flight plan communicated to the Brazilians.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's weird, man. It's weird.
Mm, yeah. It's cool.
Yeah,
Cool story though. And
yeah, it's interesting.
yeah, I don't
Um,
know.
I mentioned a couple episodes that coming into this year, I've been approaching the podcast just a little bit differently. I've been trying to make it less work. I've also been trying to make sure that we're not like compelled to put out an episode every 2 weeks,
Yeah,
no matter what. Like, I want to put out an episode if there's something to talk about.
right.
We've been doing a pretty bad job of that so far. So far, we've been like one episode a month. But, like, we're in a weird spot, a weird lull right now
Mm,
in UFO news. There's still stuff happening all the time, but not all of it is like, oh, this is worth doing an episode on. Like, this
yeah.
Obama quote was fascinating. I would not have done a whole episode on it. There just isn't enough there.
Yeah, right.
Um, one of the rumors that's going around right now which I want to pour some cold water on right from the top. Ross Coulthart finds this implausible. There's a lot to be skeptical of, but there's a rumor floating around that President Trump is going to announce that aliens are real on July 8th, which would be the anniversary of Roswell.
Oh,
I find this whole thing a little trite. I'm not 100% convinced that President Trump plans anything that far in advance. Maybe his people do. But this is all based on one guy who heard from a contact in the Trump administration that the speech is already written and plans are being made for the disclosure that alien life is real and it's here. That would be a big deal. You know, like, you better believe come July 8th, I'm going to be like refreshing the news feeds to see what happens. Yeah. But there's a lot to be skeptical of. And it's would we believe it if Trump says it? Like,
no,
look, regardless of how
not.
you feel, and whenever we mention anything political, the comments fill up with people telling us that we have Trump derangement syndrome and all sorts of other horrible shit. But look, Trump says wild shit all the time.
All the time.
You can feel how you feel about that. Like, maybe you find that to be appealing about him, but you have to admit he's not the most reliable witness in history. If he comes out and says, hey, aliens are real, there's going to be a significant portion of people who are like, okay, but they're not, right? Like, he's just saying this to distract from something. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's such a weird time.
Yeah,
it's such a weird time to be running a UFO podcast, Chuck.
Yeah, right. I wonder if that person is trying to manifest something like the JD Vance and the couch thing.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it could be, because there was a follow-up comment where they said they were trying to put pressure on the Trump admin to do it. But if it was already decided and the speech is already written, why would you need to put pressure on
them? Why would they need it? Yeah, they wouldn't.
Anyway, again, we couldn't do a whole episode on that. But it's out there. Like, if you're on the UFO forums and Twitter and stuff, like, this is a thing people have been talking about for weeks. Yeah. And UFO news tends to kind of come and go. And this one is sticking around because everybody's like, for real, though? Like, what would we do? I
thought you meant on July 8th we wouldn't be able to do an episode. I'm like, yeah, we would.
Yeah, no, for sure. If that happens, we will be recording an episode.
Yeah, on July 9th.
But also, if that happens, you don't need us to record an episode. Like, it will be front page news. So I don't know. Man.
At least it'll be on Fox News.
Jesus Christ. All right. Before we piss off anyone else in our comments, we should probably wrap this up.
Which is our goal, after all.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on It's a Very Exciting Time. You can find show notes and more on our website, veryexcitingtime.com, as well as links to our Discord and social media accounts.
And if we haven't totally turned you off already, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/veryexcitingtime, or grab some merch at veryexcitingtime.com/merch.
Chuck, as always, my wife thanks you for listening to me talk about UFOs so she doesn't have to.